if you're taking the road of an entrepreneur, there's a lot of rejection and there's a lot of failure. But that doesn't mean that you're a failure. It means that you take what you learned from that experience, which didn't work out the way you wanted, and you say, okay, how can we make it better the next time?
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Good day and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Dr. Noah St. John. Noah is known worldwide as the father of affirmations and the mental health coach to the stars. He worked with Hollywood celebrities, eight-figure company CEOs, professional athletes, top executives, and elite entrepreneurs, helping them achieve more in 12 weeks than they did in the past 12 months, all while reclaiming their time and freedom. But what many people don't know is that Noah's journey wasn't always glamorous. At this at his lowest point, he was broke, depressed, and even contemplated suicide. It was during that dark period that he uncovered what he now calls head trash, the subconscious mental blocks preventing people from achieving their potential. His mission? To eliminate not enoughness from the world and help others step into success without stress or overwhelm. Noah's expertise has been recognized across 1,000 plus media outlets, including ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, the Hallmark Channel, Entrepreneur, the Jenny McCarthy Show, Selling Power, and Success Magazine. And now he's back with his latest book, The Seven Figure Expert, Your Ultimate Guide to a Life of More Impact, Influence, and Financial Freedom, sharing his proven formula to help entrepreneurs scale success without burnout. Noah, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Great to be here, Dwight. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I am too as well. We talked about before I hit record, after researching you for a couple hours yesterday and going through all the great things that you've done. Congratulations, right?
Thank you.
You're a new friend to me. I'm just meeting you now, but boy, I could sure sense. I had a sense of pride looking at your stuff, and I was proud of your accomplishments because to do all that, you've had to invest a lot of time, right? You've had to have a lot of no's, you've had to have a lot of rejections, and you're the type of person I love interviewing because you have a superpower I have as well. And what's that superpower? Tenacity. Most people don't realize being tenacious is a superpower. It's that never die attitude, that never give up attitude, that perseverance where you can just knock down that negativity and you can get back up. Sometimes it might take a day, might take a week because every circumstance is different, unique like our fingerprints. But the difference between yourself and me and many others out there is that we strive to always live outside our comfort zone and not let the small little things beat us down or the small individuals beat us down. So again, thanks for coming on the show. One of the things I like to focus on is the person's origin story from their earliest recollections, whatever they feel comfortable sharing. So Noah, could you please do me a favor and share your earliest recollections to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. My story is one that started very organically because I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. And I know that's a total cliche, but it's totally true. I grew up in this little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community, and the have-nots was my family. So from a very young age, my earliest memories are that I wanted to get out of that life of poverty. I hated being poor because I saw that right down the street there's great wealth and abundance. So I literally said from the time I was a little kid, how the heck do I get from here to there? And of course, there was no internet back then, none, all of the other things that we have today. So I did the only thing I could think of, which is I went to the library and I read every book in the self-help section. Just I read over 300 books in the self-help section, all the classics, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey, and I just immersed myself in the traditional success literature. And fast forward many years later, I'd been reading these books, but as hard as I tried, as hard as I worked, I really couldn't get them to work. And so at the age of 25, I'd been working so hard and spending so much time, money, and effort, and I really wasn't successful. So I decided to commit suicide, as you mentioned in your introduction. And so I decided to take my own life. Now, at the very last moment, my life was spared, but I didn't know why. And I said, I've got to find what am I doing here on this planet? What is my purpose on the earth? And I didn't know how to answer that question. So I went back to the library, and this time I read every book in the spiritual section. I read over 200 books in the spiritual section. And fast forward 5 years after that, in 1997, I had these epiphanies when I realized exactly what was missing in all of those books that I'd spent so many years studying. And I realized that no one was talking about it. And I realized that this, in fact, was the missing piece in traditional success literature. And I realized that this was my life's work. So I decided to write my very first book. It was entitled Permission to Succeed. And it was subsequently published by the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. And now, all these years later, I am now the only author in history to have works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon and Schuster, Mind Valley, Nightingale Conant, and the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. No one else in history has ever done that. Not Tony Robbins, not Wayne Dyer, not Zig Ziglar, nobody, just little old me. So I have had that as an accomplishment. And most importantly, we've helped our clients, as you mentioned, everyone from entrepreneurs to athletes to celebrities to real estate professionals, health professionals, chiropractors, and more, to add over $3 billion collectively. That means we've helped our clients add multiple six figures, seven figures, and yes, even eight figures and more using my method. So that's how it all started, and that's why I'm here.
Wow. You talked about, going from the self-help section to the spiritual section and reading all these different books. And that's one thing I know. I've only got one book, nothing like you've accomplished. I wrote a book during the pandemic and published it, but I have stuff in there about, you talk about self-help. I talk about the origin. I talk about spirituality. I get into goal setting. I get into budgeting. It's just basically, well, it's a book. It's called Give a Heck: How to Live Life on Purpose and Not by Accident. So I put in there what I did in order to live a purposeful, intentful life. And I wrote a word down here: elevate. Your whole passage of time through being 15 to 25 to where you are today to being right in your first, you're always elevating, you're always on the climb. Has this been something that you've seen? And like, you grew up in this community where you lived in a poor home, it got repossessed or whatever word you want to do, foreclosed. Did you have anybody in your life that you looked up to? And I'm not talking about people in books, but did you have anybody that encouraged you through this journey, that you were always, they were a rock for you that helped you through this circumstances?
When I was younger, my mother really fought for me to, go and be greater than our circumstance. She really fought for me. At one time, I decided to be a professional ballet dancer. And the reason I got into dance is because when I was young, I couldn't walk. My hips and my legs didn't work properly. So I had to wear braces like Forrest Gump. If you remember that movie, Forrest Gump, and he
Yep.
had those braces on. Well, that's what I did. And so at the age of 7, my pediatrician suggested to my parents that I start taking dance lessons, which I did. And then I decided because I enjoyed it, I became a professional ballet dancer at the age of 18. And so from a young age, my mother was always very supportive of my dreams, even though she wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. But she said, well, you know what? You can always be a doctor, you can always be a lawyer, but you can't always be a ballet dancer. So, she encouraged me to follow my dreams, and that's something I'm very grateful for.
That is amazing. And that was another question I was going to ask you, but it ties into this. So your mom was your driving factor to do something that I find is just amazing. So I was a single, they're all adults now, but my kids grew up as me being a single parent of them, of 5 kids, 4 daughters and a son. And going to my one daughter, unfortunately, had a very terrible accident right after she graduated. She was supposed to go try out for the summer at the Winnipeg Ballet because I live in Canada, and she got injured, and unfortunately her dream was gone. But I used to absolutely love it. I used to be called the dance dad because I was the guy taking them, trying to do their hair until I started, hiring other people at the dance studio to do their makeup and hair because I'm a dude. Like, I'm just being honest with you, but I love dance. I got into watching all the dance shows with my kids and just really realizing how much had helped. And the reason I bring this up, people listening or watching dancing, for any young person or even older person, it creates positive endorphins in you. It's good for your health, not just physically. My one daughter that stuck all the way from being like little Pike to getting really good in ballet and other dances, her mental capacity and ability to step outside her comfort zone was greater than other kids. Did you find that dance did that for you? That it give you a sense of belonging, purpose, and drive?
Well, ballet specifically gave me a great education and prepared me for my life as an entrepreneur. And the reason for that is the life of a ballet dancer is about three things: pain, pain, and pain. So that's what an entrepreneur's journey is many times, is a lot of pain and a lot of rejection. This is something I talk to my clients about all the time. I have a program called the 12-week breakthrough because, as you mentioned, I'm known around the world for helping people make more in just 12 weeks than they did in the previous 12 months while actually winning their lives back. And one of the things that I tell my clients in, my 12-week breakthrough program or one-on-one clients is, you know, I've been doing this for over 3 decades, 30 years now. In fact, it's really over 4 decades because I started in the 90s. So we went to the 90s, the aughts, the tens, and now here we are in the 20s. So that's over a four decades that I've been doing this. And in that time, I've literally launched hundreds of courses, products, things like that. And 8 out of 10 things that I've launched have failed. If you look at all of the literally hundreds of things, books, courses, online and offline and everything like that, 8 out of 10 things that I've tried over the years have failed. But with just 2 out of 10 that have worked, that's still pretty good. You know what I'm saying? So the point is, most people give up after their first try. Oh, I tried one. Ah, that didn't work. Ah, forget it. It'll never work. Yeah, well, no, that's not how it works. It's very, very rare that you get it right on the first try. I sure didn't. And so anyway, that's one of the things that I help my coaching clients with is to understand, yeah, if you're taking the road of an entrepreneur, there's a lot of rejection and there's a lot of failure. But that doesn't mean that you're a failure. It means that you take what you learned from that experience, which didn't work out the way you wanted, and you say, okay, how can we make it better the next time?
Yeah, that's what a great answer because I look at all the times that I failed. Like you talk about 8 out of 10, and people have to just, if you are a reader and you talked a lot about Napoleon Hill and you talked about so many great authors where I've read their books as well, reading Colonel Sanders' story. Go look what that gentleman did at 67 years of age, approaching
Mhm.
1,100 different people trying to get financing, right? So, I get people like, because I coach, business coach, and as well to different businesses around where I live in Edmonton in Canada. And, you hear the same thing. I've got the perfect thing. It's going to work the first time. And you try not to be that person that's a downer for them to let them know that, hey, maybe you're a miracle worker and you can get it done once, right? That's going to be amazing. But I try to also set them up, not up for failure, but set them up for maybe it needs some tweaking. Maybe it needs a little bit of fine tuning. It's great, let's try it out because I'd rather them try and then help them through the failure or the correction, right? Than to tell them outright, you know what, 98 times out of 100, 8 out of 10, whatever, you're going to have to reset your course and redefine what you're doing and actually be aware what your mistakes are. What's been your experience when you're dealing with people and doing coaching? I know you have a big team, but yourself personally, how do you deal with that when you're dealing with somebody that's so energetic and they're just ready to explode? Do you have a specific process you help them through to calm that down and keep them centered on their goals?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And by the way, I don't have a big team. I have a very lean team. I
That's good.
believe in the lean machine. It's just really nice because I never really dreamed of having a huge company, with hundreds of employees. That wasn't my dream. I know that's many people's dream, but that's not mine. I prefer what I like to call a seven-figure lifestyle business. And what I mean by that is it really, when I help people, when I coach them, they really want what I have. And that really comes down to three main elements, and that is money, meaning, and freedom. So if you think about it, you can have lots of money, but you maybe don't have the meaning, that fulfillment that we all are seeking in life. And also, you might not have the freedom that you really want, right? There's a lot of miserable millionaires out there. All right. So, that's why we call it the golden triangle, that seven-figure lifestyle business, money, meaning, and freedom. Those are the three corners of that golden triangle. So I'll give you an example. Like, in my 12-week breakthrough coaching program, it's a 12-week group coaching with me. And by the way, people can learn more about that at breakthroughwithnoah.com. It's easy to remember. I'm known as the Breakthrough Coach. So just go to breakthroughwithnoah.com and you can actually schedule a 15-minute breakthrough consultation with me or one of my coaches at breakthroughwithnoah.com. Easy to remember. Anyway, so one of my clients, her name's Tamisa. She is a business owner, entrepreneur in Arizona. Now, she is or was a self-described seminar junkie. That's what she called herself when she first joined me. She was a seminar junkie, meaning, and I'm sure people listening to this program probably know someone like that, or maybe you're like that, is you're going to all these different seminars, whether it's online or whether it's live, and you're just, running around all these different gurus and trying to, find the answer, trying to find the solution. And that's fine, nothing wrong with that. But the problem for her was that she'd been a seminar junkie for a long time and she was doing good in her business, doing well, but she couldn't break through that income ceiling. She'd hit a certain place in her business and couldn't break through, no matter how hard she worked, no matter how many seminars she went to. So a friend actually referred her to me and she joined my 12-week breakthrough program. Well, as a result of joining my program, she tripled her investment in just 2 weeks. She tripled in 2 weeks. We hadn't even gotten to the money part yet. And so that's how powerful this is when we put these systems in place. So, what I teach that's different from what a lot of people do is I teach about system driven success versus personality driven success. See, when you look at the gurus out there, they are, it's called or I call it personality-driven success. That means it's dependent on their personality. Well, my question is, well, what if you don't have that personality? See, I don't. I'm actually a very introverted, quiet, shy person. I'm not one of those that's going to be out there saying, "Hey, look at me, look at how cool I am, look at my yacht, look at my helicopter. Aren't I just great?" That's what they do, but that's not me. And so what I do that's different is I say, "That's great for them, but have they helped anyone else make any money? Or is it all about how much money they've made?" See, that's where it gets weird. And people forget that. They just forget. It's like, well, that's great that that guy's got all this money, but has he helped anyone else? So that's why when you go to my website, you go to noahstjohn.com or you go to breakthroughwithnoah.com, you'll see that I'd rather brag about my clients than me. Yes, I've done well. I'm doing fine. But who cares? It's not about me. It's about have I helped hundreds and hundreds of other people to reach their dreams? And the answer to that is yes. And that's what you could see on our website. So the point is that's the difference between system-driven success, which is what I do, versus personality-driven success.
I love that. That is such a great explanation. Those listening or watching on YouTube, there is a difference, but to define it as simplistic, it isn't that hard to grasp. System versus personality. And when I think about all the things that I've experienced through conferences, you talked about that young girl. I've been to hundreds of conferences over my lifetime. Some of them I spoke at, some of them it was a captive conference. I needed to be there because of my finance planning industry. And, really at the end of the day, how many people leave these conferences that actually ever look at their notes again, or who actually take notes, or who actually practice any of it? They get caught up in that energy and that excitement. And next, I know so many people like that. Noah, I really appreciate you bringing that up. But yeah, system driven. That's the same thing I have to do in my finance practice. When I got into this industry and started my brokerage, coming up on 23 years now, I had to create a system because everybody was talking transactional. Everybody was all about it wasn't relationship driven. So the personality thing has to kind of come in there depending on what it is. For me, it has to come in. I have to have a compassionate heart, empathy, and I'm just like you. I'm extremely introverted. People say we don't believe that, and we've heard you on stage, or we've read, or we've listened to your podcast. Well, you know what? I'm willing to be temporarily inconvenienced to be lazy in lifestyle later. And then people look at me, what? Yeah, I'm willing to be, temporarily inconvenienced and get out of my comfort zone to help people so that I can have that relaxed attitude. More people want to come to me personality driven wise, but do I have a system in place to make my business successful? Do I have a system that I'm taking them through? So I'm not just loosey goosey like my dad would always say growing up, right? That's just loosey goosey. You got to take things more serious. I was blessed to be raised by an entrepreneur family, though, right? So I really appreciate that. So some of what you talked about, you did bring up the seven figure issue, right? So I really want to talk about your new book. So what inspired you to write the seven figure expert? Like, what was there something at one specific? Was it a person you run into? Was it a group of people, or did you wake up at night sometimes and have that light bulb moment and go, I got to do this?
Well, as you can see behind me, I've written 25 books, as I mentioned, being the only author to have works published by all those different
Yeah,
publishers.
yeah,
And this was a couple of years ago now, and I realized that I had not written a book on how to make money, even though I've helped my clients make $3 billion. And so I was like, huh, that's funny. I guess I forgot. So, because I was so busy doing it, I
yeah, of
forgot
course.
to write a book about it. Anyway, so that's why I actually decided to write this. Here's the book, by the way. It is called The Seven Figure Expert, as you mentioned, your ultimate guide to a life of more impact, influence, and financial freedom. And by the way, all of your listeners, your audience can get a free copy of this book. All you have to do is go to sevenfigureexpertbook.com. It's easy to remember, sevenfigureexpertbook.com. And just cover shipping. So the book is free. I've covered the cost of the book. Of course, you can get on Amazon or anywhere books are sold as well, but you'll pay money. Why not get it free? Anyway, so I realized I really needed to put it out in a book because this is, of course, what I've been coaching people on for many, many years now, And I said, well, why don't we put it out in book form? That way everybody can follow along. And then, of course, the people that want to get my personal help, they can join my 12-week breakthrough program, or they can join, get one-on-one coaching with me, or what have you. So I'll give you another great example from one of my
Sure.
clients who
I'd love
used
that.
this, my framework, my formula. So I was talking with one of my clients. His name's Charles, and I asked him a question that I ask all of my clients, whether it's one-on-one or in my 12-week breakthrough program. And I said, "How much do you think it's going to cost you, Charles?" I asked him, "How much do you think it's going to cost you if we don't put this in place for you?" In other words, if we don't put this in place, if you don't take this action, what do you think it's going to cost you? And now, without batting an eye, he said $1 million. He said, "No, I'm easily going to lose out on $1 million if I don't do the things that you teach." And I said, "Well, first of all, Charles, it's very common. I talk to people every day who tell me the same thing. Hey, Noah, if I don't put this in place, it's easily going to cost me a half a million, a million, 2 million or more, just in the next 12 months, right?" And remember, that compounds year over year if you don't put these systems in place. So it's not just 1 year, it's forever. So I said, that's point number one. Point number two is, I tell you what, I said to him, why don't you just give me 10% of that million and I'll find you $1 million in the next 12 months. In other words, if you give me $1 and I give you $10 back, is that a good deal? He goes,
Of
yeah,
course.
that's a good deal. So he decided to do that. He literally decided to hire me on the spot and paid me 100K. That's 10% of a million, right? That's why I love working with high achievers, right? Because they make decisions quickly and firmly. They don't dilly-dally, don't mess around. Don't say, oh, I got to think about it. I got to talk to my spouse, whatever. He just said, let's do it. So I coached him one-on-one for a year, walked him through my process, my formula. We installed the systems in his business and in his life. And as it turns out, I didn't find him an additional $1 million in the next 12 months. Instead, I found him 1.8 million in just 10 months. So he gave me $1, I gave him $18 back. Is that a good deal? No, that's a great deal. And he actually sent me an email. He said, "Hey, Noah, guess what? I'm on a 7-week vacation with my wife." He said, "This is a dream I've had for the last 20 years." He said, "I've always wanted to buy an RV and drive across the country, see the country with my wife, but I never had the time or the money before." He said, "Now, because of coaching with you, now I've got more time and I've got more money than I've ever had before. So we're taking a 7-week vacation." And he literally said, "Thank you, Noah, for changing my life." So that's how powerful these systems are.
Well, and your systems, like you said, you all of a sudden realize you hadn't written a book about how to make money, right? But your processes lead up to that. It's like that. You look in life. I always tell people, you got to start somewhere. You got to take a little baby steps. You got to, you're so used to being camped in your life and everything's flat, and you've forgotten how to
Mhm.
climb, or maybe you've never climbed. Your system and processes that you talk about in your books takes you to step one, step two, step three, and you're just constantly on the climb, and that's
Mhm.
exciting. And on top of all of that, though, if they're blessed and lucky to have you as their coach, that's a powerful formula. Like, whether it took you 40 years, 30 years, whatever, again, congratulations. It excites me when I talk to entrepreneurs that are always on the climb.
Mm.
And you're not perfect. Nobody is. You have your moments. But to help a man go on his dream vacation for 7 weeks and give him that confidence,
Mm.
and to attract people that make conscious, quick decisions, is an art too.
Yes.
I found that myself. I get people that, I'm dealing with clients that want to give me a half million or million or whatever to invest and help them, and they just, it's all transactional. They really
Mm.
don't understand things, and I'm trying to coach them that, what, we need to get this right up here. We need to work through, we have to go through this process I've developed. It's going to help you goal set. It's going to help you feel more confident, and we're going to teach you how to budget. Well, I have this amount of money, what do I need to budget for? How much are you throwing away? How much could you be using to pay a
Yeah.
coach, another coach, continue on coaching with me? Maybe you can give more. Oh, one of your goals is giving more to charity, but you said you don't do a lot. Yeah, you have all this money. think maybe if you budget, you'd be more confident of saving for retirement. Well, you have lots of money, you're going to retire. Great. Can you prove it? Is it in
Hmm.
black and white? Right. So I like how the fact that you take people through a system, I take people through it. Obviously, there's commonalities and there's things that aren't similar at all, but
Mm.
I like the fact that you take that. I keep on getting better too, Noah, as I grow. I keep on picking up new books. And they're gonna chuckle at this. I don't know if you ever heard this. I'm the number one fan of my show. You know why? Can you guess why? I
Why?
pick
No. Why?
I get to pick the people that come on that are gonna
Nice.
educate me first and foremost. I get to direct the conversation flow. It sounds kind of selfish, but guess what? I've built a tribe of people over these last 20 some years,
Yeah.
last, 4.5 years doing the podcast that think like me.
Mm.
Strange. Isn't that strange? All right. People
Pretty
that want
cool.
to, maybe they're stuck, but they want to climb, they want to grow, right? So this is fantastic. I really appreciate that. When you wrote that book on, doing things in 12 weeks that they haven't
Mhm.
done in 12 months. Were you applying that process prior, or was it something as you developed the book that you looked at all the things that you were doing in your life and going, this is my success pattern. I need to get this into a book.
Well, I created what I call the power habit system over, 30 years ago. And that is, people can find out about that in this book called Power Habits. I promise I won't hold up all 25 books, but anyway, that's
Well,
just another
for
book
those
I have.
for those that are just to cut you off for a sec, for those people that are listening and not watching on YouTube, that's okay. We'll make sure that in the show notes we put the links in and as much information as you can. So if you're listening and driving, just don't pull over. Just keep on driving and enjoy the show. So continue
Exactly.
on.
Anyway, so I created this system called the Power Habit System, which the full name of it is the Power Habits of Unconsciously Successful People. Now that's a mouthful, but it's actually very simple. What I realized many years ago, 30 years ago, is that highly successful people, the people we all look up to, the one percenters, are doing things unconsciously that they don't even know they're doing, number one, and therefore, number two, they can't teach it to us. So what every other habits training does, and there's tons of habits training out there. A lot of people are into habits, and that's great. But what they're teaching is the conscious habits. Hey, if you want to reach your goals, set your goals and think positive and, say statements and visualize it and da 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 and all that stuff. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, that's all great. There's only one huge, enormous problem, and that is the iceberg principle. The iceberg principle states that we humans are like an iceberg, right? So about 5% is visible above the surface. Well, that's your conscious mind, right? Your conscious thoughts, behaviors, and actions. However, the vast 95% is in the subconscious. That means you don't have a choice about it because you're not even aware that you're doing it. So, one of the things that I always ask my audience members as a keynote speaker, I get to do keynote presentations for teams, organizations, companies all around the country, around the world. And one of the things I'll ask my audience members is I'll show them the iceberg principle. And then I'll say, all right, so imagine you're going into battle and you have five guys fighting 95 guys. Who do you think's going to win? The 95, but only every time. So if you're fine with always failing, if you're fine with sabotaging yourself, if you're fine with keeping yourself stuck, then keep doing what you're doing. If you'd rather try something else, if you'd rather have a different result, then maybe you should try these power habits that I created 30 years ago. I'll give you another perfect example of this. So I was speaking at a seminar in Los Angeles for about 1,000 entrepreneurs. These are high achievers, seven, eight figure company CEOs, entrepreneurs, business owners. I had just finished speaking and I was walking off the stage. A man came up to me and he said to me, he practically grabbed me by the lapels. And he said, Noah, I want to hire you as my coach. You are the coach I've been looking for. Now, I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. True story. You could see his video and many others on my website. But anyway, I said, okay, well, what's going on? He goes, well, Noah, I own this company and we got to seven figures in revenue really fast. But do you know what? We have been stuck at the same level for the past 4 years. 4 years, we've had zero growth. And he said, I have spent so much money. I spent all this money on marketing and sales and all the gurus, and he named every guru out there. And he said, we can't break through that income ceiling. And he said, as soon as I heard you speak about head trash and power habits and your foot on the brake and everything you just said, he said, I knew you were the coach I've been looking for. So he literally decided to hire me on the spot, right? Another great example of a high achiever, right? Make decisions quickly and firmly. Let's go. So I coached him and his executive team for 18 months. And in that 18 months, we were able to get his company that had been stuck at seven figures for the previous 4 years to over 20 million in sales in just 18 months. Most companies are thrilled with a 10% increase in a year or two. We got him 600% in 18 months. That's what we like to call hockey stick growth. Everybody in Canada loves that phrase because here you are, here you're going along kind of flat, and then all of a sudden we put in my power habit system and whoop, you get the hockey stick. All right. So that is how powerful this is. And the great example, the reason I'm sharing that story, that example, is because 90% of the work that we did was on his inner game, on the things he couldn't see, not the outer game. That's what he got. The outer game got him to seven figures. That's great. Nothing wrong with it. But because no one had shown him the inner game like I teach, he was stuck. So it's only after installing my power habit system that he was able to scale, get that hockey stick growth. And that's how powerful this is.
Oh, it sounds absolutely amazing. I was excited just looking at your website. You've referenced it a few times. People, check out Noah's website. Again, it'll be in the show notes. What an amazing site, actually. It's very well put together. I went through it and I was like, I like this. But
Oh,
that's another thing. As a side note, people, if you have a crappy website, it reflects on you. And we'll just leave it at that. Put the effort in. Why market yourself and not market the best version of you? Because people look at the facade. And if they don't like the facade, they're never going to know the greatness that's you. Right. So, another thing I like to talk about is the impact of the hidden habits and that head trash. So, you talked about the habits, but I want to get more into this. In your books and coaching programs, pardon me, you talk about unconscious habits of highly successful people and what they go through. But can you get more into the head trash and why it's the number
mhm.
one reason people feel stuck?
Absolutely. So for everyone listening to this program, I want you to think about your goals. Okay. Now, why is this so important and why is this where we start? By the way, this is where we start with all of my clients, whether it's one-on-one or in my 12-week breakthrough program. We always start with what do you want? Because it's idiotic for someone to come in here and say, okay, now this is what you should want. and, and you're like, well, who are you? Why should you tell me what I should want? I don't even know what I want half the time, right? So that's the point. So of course we have a process because a lot of people don't know what they want. They don't know. They're like, well, I don't know. Okay, well, we got to start there. So you've heard this probably a million times, right? Everybody's, ah, yeah, set you goals, set you goals. You've heard that a million times. Okay, and the thing is though, that's actually half right. It's half right because we humans are goal-oriented organisms. We're constantly thinking about what do we want, right? Whether it's a new job, a new car, a new house, or a ham sandwich for lunch. We're always thinking about what do we want. So the problem is that's only half the story. So the other half is what I teach that nobody else talks about, and that is what happens after you set a goal. What happens after you set the goal? So here's a great example. Many entrepreneurs come to me and they say, "Hey, Noah, I want to go from 10,000 a month to 100,000 a month. I want a 10x." Great. It's a great goal. Nothing wrong with that. Sounds great. But here's the problem. They say, "Well, no, I want to go from 10K to 100K a month." I probably can't do it. I'm too busy, you know. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I can't afford it, you know. I'm just making enough to get by here, but I've been stuck here for a long time and I've tried all these things before. I tried all these different coaches, went on all these seminars. I'll say the same thing. What makes this any different? Blah, 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 blah. So do you see what they're doing? They're instantly saying why it won't work. Here's why it won't work. Well, guess what? If you're telling yourself, I want this, but I probably can't do it, you're going to make yourself right. You're literally going to make yourself right. We humans have an infinite capacity to make ourselves right. So this is one area of your life, friends. I mean, this is what I tell everybody, my coaching clients, my, audiences in my keynote speeches. This is one instance where you don't want to be right. You don't want to be right that says, I can't do it because. Why? Because that is your head trash. And that is, in fact, the very thing that's keeping you stuck right now. So, yes, I've written 25 books on this one subject, how to take out the trash that's in your head, the trash that's keeping you stuck. Because once we get that trash out, just like Adam, like Bill, like Charles, all these examples that I've given you already and hundreds more, that's when we get the hockey stick growth. So that's how powerful your head trash is. It's keeping you stuck, and that's why we have to get rid of it.
Oh yeah, head trash is sorry. Head trash. Sorry for the listeners and viewers. It's allergy season here, and a little bit of a cough going on. What did so we look at the head trash,
Hmm.
and we've all had that challenge. Obviously,
Sure.
that head trash or those self-defeating voices. Some people call it the little B voice, and there's so many different ways.
Yep.
How much? I don't know if you've had this asked before, but how much do our associations affect that head trash? And when I talk associations, people automatically think of people. I'm talking about what they read, listen to, who they associate with, what garbage they let into their mind, because that head trash continues. It's like a perpetual motion motor if they're having issues at home and their career, at their business. How much is the associations do you feel is continuing that head trash or caused and continue to cause it for people?
It's a huge, important thing to talk about. So I'm sure most of the people listening to this program have heard the phrase that you are the average of the five people you spend the most time with. And that really is pretty accurate, right? So that's one of the reasons that I shared my story, right? So earlier I talked about the fact that I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. So I was painfully exposed to that chasm between the haves and the have-nots, right? My family was the have-nots. And so, but I got to see that there are haves. There are people that have lots of money. They're wealthy. And I'm like, well, what the heck? I mean, my parents work really hard. How come they don't have tons of money? That's what I realized. Hard work has very little, if anything, to do with it. And then I said, well, my parents are really smart. They're very intelligent. And then I realized, well, that doesn't have anything to do with it, right? We all know a lot of dumb rich people. It's like, wow, how'd that happen? Why the heck is this idiot rich and I'm not? You know? And so the point is, that's when after years and years and years and years of study and realizing that it wasn't what everyone else was talking about. That's why I had to write all these books. I wrote all these books for me because I'm like, well, nobody else talked about this. So, well, gosh darn it, I got to talk about it. And then, of course, thousands and thousands of people around the world, also relate to my books and say, yeah, Noah. And I've had it said to me so many times over the last 30 years is, thank you for explaining my whole life. Thank you. And the people say to me, how'd you get my diary? How do you know so much about me? I'm like, well, I lived it, so believe me, I know. And so, yeah, it's a very important thing. And that, by the way, that's one of the reasons why when people join my 12-week breakthrough or one-on-one coaching with me, one of the things we do is we leverage that. We leverage that and we literally up level the people that they're with, their support system because of what I said, that you're the average of those five people. So, you know what? If you're stuck, if you're not reaching the level of success you want, you might need to up level your relationships.
Oh, absolutely. Um, I like all the little intricate things you talk about as you go through the coaching process and you work with people. We learn so much about those little things behind the scenes that nobody's talking about, which they should be shouting from the roofs. You need to worry about these little things because otherwise you're going to self-sabotage yourself or you're going to allow other people to self-sabotage. You can't even blame them.
Mm.
It's being stuck in that rut, that valley of despair that frustrates me for so many people. I see the
Mhm.
greatness in them. I see the fact that they're more intelligent than
Mhm.
the next person. But yet the most successful people aren't the most intelligent. They're the people that practice what I was coached on and taught years ago, ABC, action, belief, consistency. They're taking action. They're willing to trip, get a boo-boo,
Mhm.
put a band-aid on, right? They're working on increasing their belief system and they're consistent. And I always tell them, I said, that's the difference between somebody super intelligent and somebody that's just motivated and action orientated. They can be average intelligence, but they're developing critical thinking thoughts and processes to deal with people. And all along the way, it's growing them. And that's not a bad thing. So I have little systems I teach too, which my listeners are familiar. We've talked about it before, obviously, but it's a combination of me wanting to grow. So good for you. I like you admitting the fact, hey, I did this for me. And then it serves others because it's okay to be selfish about ourselves. It really is, right? Because how can we serve others if we're not the best version of ourselves,
So true.
right? And I'm so tired of this. I don't know about you because I know we got to wrap up the show soon. Here is how many people say, "When's enough?" Never. Till I tell you, I take my last breath. I'm going to work on development of me, because why would you do that? Because it's like a fuel, right? Your brain doesn't know the difference between the truth and a lie. It constantly needs new input. I just can't fathom. I look back at being camped in life. And I looked at the different valleys of despair I went through. And every time I wasn't camped and I was always driven, guess what? It's the obvious answer. Life's better, right?
Mhm.
But you need to work on it. You need to work on your relationship skills. You need to work on what you ingest in your brain and listen to. And number one, like Noah talked about, who you hanging out with, who's your top five, right? I don't even have a top five anymore. I've narrowed it down. I got tons of acquaintances, but I had to find a definition between acquaintances, friends, energy vampires. The list goes on, right? So
Yes,
I appreciate your time. We're going to wrap up here. I hope someday I can have you on again. There's so much stuff that I
absolutely.
just
Love to.
I
Love to.
just didn't get to. You're such a fabulous guest. I really
Oh, thank
appreciate
you.
you investing the time in me, and great storyteller. I don't know if
Oh,
people tell you that, but you are. You're really good at sharing your thoughts. Those are listening. Go watch on YouTube. His energy, his smile, it's just it's infectious. I can't help but smile and feel good about myself.
oh.
So that's the best person to have on my show. Somebody with knowledge, energy, excitement, and enthusiasm. The list goes on, right?
Oh.
Anyway, I won't. I'll get off my soapbox. I like recognizing those special individuals, and I consider you one.
Oh, thank you. Sweet.
So you're welcome. So couple last things before
Mhm.
we end the show. What's one action listeners can take today to start building momentum toward what they want to achieve?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's what I already mentioned. I'll just reiterate. So number one is understand what your goals are. Number two, understand what you're saying to yourself about your ability to actually achieve that goal. So using my example, hey Noah, I want to go from 10K to 100K a month, but I don't think I can do it. Okay, well, why can't you do it? Well, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I can't afford it. I don't know who to talk to, I don't know who I can trust, whatever, right? So list all those. And then every single day, you just take one action. Just take one action so that you make those excuses, that head trash, not true, right? Oh, I don't have the time. That's not true. Of course you have time. You have the same 24 hours as me, Bill Gates, Mark Cuban, Warren Buffett. We all have the same 24 hours. So it's not true that you don't have the time. What you haven't done is you haven't made it a priority yet. That's what happens. We don't live with our time. We live with our priorities. Okay, so that's just one simple example. So anyway, that's where I would start right now. That's something everyone can do right now today. And then, of course, make sure you go to breakthroughwithnoah.com to book that breakthrough consultation, and also sevenfigureexpertbook.com. Go ahead and grab the book. That's a great way to get started right now today, and then we can get you on your path very, very, very quickly.
Yes, you certainly can. So thank you for that precise answer. I usually ask people what would they give listeners for one last final comment about giving a heck, but you've answered that. So at the end of the day, most people don't realize giving a heck means giving a heck about you, living intentfully, working for a purposeful existence. It doesn't mean you're going to be completely bulletproof, but you're going to live a life where you know how to literally check yourself in and check yourself out when you need to, and still live a balanced value-based system based on core values. I wanted to get into that too, but we'll have to do that in another
I'll have to come
episode.
back. Let's do it again.
Oh, dude, you are so refreshing. I really
Thanks.
appreciate it. So before we end, is there any last final things you want to say before I wrap up the show?
No, I've given lots of different resources. Please go check it out. Go to the website. There's free resources. There's different coaching courses, things that we can help you. But the number one thing is make sure you get the support you need so that you can reach your goals up to 10 times faster and easier. The support is there. We've been doing this for a long, long time. We've got more success stories than anyone in the industry. So come check it out, and we'd love to help you as well.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. So those that are listening to the show that are new, either watching or listening, go to giveaheck.com. At the top, hit podcast. You'll see a picture of Noah. There'll be a complete detailed show notes as well as chapter summaries. And on top of that, you can have the full unedited transcript to peruse through, because I do get reached out by people that like looking that stuff up. And hey, I'm here to give a heck about everybody. So hopefully that helps. And please share this episode and subscribe to the show. Leave a review. It helps the algorithms ensure that my show gets out to more people, so more people can give a heck, so more people can live an intentful life. And Noah is a person that can help you do that. So again, thanks so much for being on Give a Heck. Noah, I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn. It is never too late to give a heck. Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.